Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Witches and Wine. This is the show where we talk about witchy stuff and we drink wine. Clink and drink.
Clink and drink.
And this is my first time. Is this my first time tasting this?
Yes.
Ever?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that is yummy.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I'll keep it.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. So let us introduce ourselves. I am your hostess with the mostest, Lady Lola Stardust. I'm the High Priestess of Children of the Crossroads ATC here in Spokane, Washington.
And I am Lord Silent of Stardust, the High Priest of Children of the Crossroads ATC.
In Spokane, Washington. And before we get to our awesome guest, I'm very excited to talk to her. We're going to go ahead and introduce the wine. You want to hand the bottle to me?
I'd be happy to.
And tell us, what are we drinking tonight?
So we're drinking an Oregon Pinot from A to Z Winery. Excellent, easy drinking Pinot Noir. Going to pair it beautifully with just about any dish. You get some cherry notes, a little bit of blackberry, and a touch of oak spice on the end. Not an expensive bottle by no means. Going to run you $12 to $15. I can find it at quite a few retailers. And just really, really excellent version of an Oregon Pinot at a very value or equitable price.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. It's really good.
Yep.
What do you think it would pair well with?
Well, it's being Pinot Noir, it pairs with everything. Pinot Noir is the most food-friendly grape out there. So if you can't figure out what you're going to pair food to, Pinot Noirs are always safe. Good dishes are always salmon. Anytime you're doing salmon, Pinot Noirs go wonderfully because they don't override the delicateness of the salmon.
Yeah.
You can also use Pinot Noirs for your turkey or Thanksgiving meals.
Ooh, well, this is really good wine, and I love that we are cataloging his wines. You got to get back to cataloging some more. We're cataloging them, and I'm still thinking of what can we do with, like, make a little book of, wines of witches and wine or something like that. That'd be kind of fun. So keep cataloging. So, all right. Well, let us get to our guest. I'm very, very excited. We have known Cyndal for a long time, but as time goes on, we would run into each other once every few years. I think one time it was just like long periods of time.
Yep.
We met her and her partner at a pagan campout, which was amazing. And now this is great. We get to stay in touch. We've actually seen each other for other organizations more and more. And so I'm so glad she's back in our life. I want to welcome the lovely Cyndal Wallace. Welcome. Look at that. Look at that pretty girl. All right. So, Cyndal, why don't you tell us, first of all, where you're located, where you do your work, and all the different types of work you do. And then we're going to break some of those down and talk about them individually.
Yeah. So my name is Cyndal Wallace. I am the owner of Blooming Lotus Hypnosis out in Spokane Valley, Washington. I am very eclectic in my spiritual practice, but in my hypnosis practice, I do work mostly with that clinical work. So helping people overcome anxiety and PTSD and trauma from the past. But what I don't tell my clients is that we're doing shadow work. So it is... So it's still very, very spiritual in a way, even though I don't always market in that way, if you will.
Yeah.
In my spiritual practice, I dabble quite a bit. Recently, I've been getting into doing sound baths. I'm also a shamanic practitioner as well, too. So I've been doing journey work for a very, very long time. I'm a huge fan and advocate for a lot of plant medicines as well, too, and using them ethically. And crystal work, chakra work, and everything in between. Animal communication is also another really big thing that I also enjoy doing. I'm a huge animal lover, kind of an animal nerd. So all the things.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, definitely we're gonna do some talking for personal appointments and whatnot. That is amazing. I love that. Well, let us start with something that I find really fascinating, and it's the first thing you said. This is something I want to talk about because it's awesome, and is you do hypnosis. Yeah. I don't think I've ever met a hypnotist before, and I've seen him on TV and stuff like that. I'd like to know how, first of all, how do you become certified in that? What is the journey to become a hypnosis? And then we're going to talk about what you do and for what and how it works.
Beautiful, beautiful. So this is a great question. So to be honest with you, it's really not hard to become a professional hypnotist, but not all hypnosis certification programs are equal. Because, to add to that, hypnotizing someone is not hard. It's knowing what to do with someone when they're in that state that really falls back on having good and adequate training.
Yeah.
And so when because hypnosis literally just fell into my lap.
Really?
We're going to do a little bit of time traveling here.
Yeah,
So
let's do some time
my
traveling.
senior year in high school, we had a hypnotist come in for my all-nighter.
Yep.
And they came in, I was like,
oh, wow. He did his all-nighter too. That's crazy.
It's a thing. And I was like, my 18-year-old self, I was like, bullshit. It's not real. It's
yeah.
And so I just kind of forgot about it, didn't ever really think about it. And then when I got with my partner Judge, we were exploring different businesses and just to become self-employed. And the one day hypnosis literally just fell into my lap. I was on YouTube and I was watching a YouTube video chatting with the hypnotist. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I was watching that. And then he's talking about mindset and neuroplasticity and all of these things I'm just really geeky about.
Yeah.
And so then this put me down this rabbit hole of what does it take to become a hypnotist? Then this led me to Cascade Hypnosis Center, which is out in Bellingham, Washington.
Okay.
And they are one of the best hypnosis schools in the Pacific Northwest.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you find that out? Do you just read reviews? Do you research? Do you talk to others? How does that happen that it's
all
the
of
best?
the above?
All of the above. Okay.
So I really went down some deep rabbit holes of doing lots of different research because Judge and I are now certified hypnosis instructors as well too, but this was back in 2019. That we were doing research, we were reading reviews. I was actually able to talk to some of Erica Flint's previous students as well too.
Okay.
I was able to reach out to some people in the organization that I'm in and have these conversations. And what I really loved about Erica too is not just about, becoming a hypnotist, but she also includes the business aspect, and you also get lots of hands-on experience. So it's kind of like an internship. So when you very first get on board, you have to read books, you have to take have to take a couple tests, you have to read some manuals, have to watch videos, you have to do all of this stuff. But then when you get to class, it's 100 hours of hands-on. So by the time that I was done with my class, it would I was already hypnotized probably 100 times. I've probably already done hypnosis on my fellow students at least 100 times. So it was just very nonstop hypnosis. So by the time I graduated, I was ready.
Yeah. What did it feel like to be hypnotized for the first time? Was it weird?
So it's kind of funny because I wanted to become I actually tried hypnosis before I became a professional hypnotist because I wanted to try it out.
Okay.
So I went to a hypnotist out in Coeur d'Alene, and it wasn't really necessarily, I guess, the best experience personally.
Oh no.
And so it's okay. But what it did help me with is taking on what I don't prefer. So then when I do start working with clients, I can now make sure that they're having even better experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
are there people that, because there are so many people that are kind of resistant to letting go. So we find that with any kind of Reiki or meditation, or is it the same concept? The person needs to, have you met someone that's just resistant to it and it's just a little more difficult?
So what I like to tell people is all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So even when you and I are doing hypnosis together, you're technically hypnotizing yourself. You're just following my instructions to be able to get to that state. And if someone has a belief system that I'm too strong-willed to be hypnotized, then they're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is a voluntary state of mind. Now, what's different, though, is that when I'm working with people, they usually have a really big want. They're wanting to, get rid of the anxiety. They're wanting to show up better in their relationships. They're wanting to go after job promotions. They're wanting to do these things. And so because they have this really big goal on top of the staircase, they're going to be willing to try new and different things.
Yeah.
But this is also why I do a consultation.
Yeah.
So I do a consultation with people so then I can do my part with educating people so then people can make an informed decision. But then I'm also deciding if they're going to be a good fit for me or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're going to, it's like with anything in a spiritual context, you want to make sure there's consent, and you want to make sure that what energies are you dealing with? I mean, this is what we do as pagans and witches. We are.
When you do an energy exchange, you're taking that energy upon yourself, and if that energy is not conducive to how you function, then you shouldn't bring it upon you.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen. So that makes total sense, and it's good to hear that. Not that I thought that hypnotists like all of a sudden just take over your mind, and you're like, I can't, you start quacking like a duck, or So, but I figured it was something like that because I know you, and I understand going into a state of deep trance, a deep trance, or a shamanic travel, or something. We all have to have the openness to do it, and the person that's guiding us needs to make sure the energies are good, a good fit. Yeah,
absolutely. And a fun way that how I like to explain hypnosis is that hypnosis is like a dance. So I'm leading the dance and you're just following my moves. And if you follow my moves, follow my instructions, we're going to have this very beautiful dance. Well, versus someone who is being kind of resistant, someone who is, not going with the flow, then it's not going to be really this beautiful dance. So it is a consensual state of mind. It's also another really big thing to also understand is that it is a natural, normal state of mind. So hypnosis is the alpha and the theta brainwave state. So we shift in and out of brainwave states every single day. So you go into hypnosis right before you go to sleep, first few minutes upon waking, when you're driving and you pull up into your driveway, like, oh, I don't remember the drive. How did I get here?
Oh, yeah. That's kind of frightening.
It is. It's definitely made me a much better driver.
Yeah.
When you are reading a really good book and the time flies on by, when the athlete is in the flow, they're like in the zone.
Yeah.
So these are all natural, normal examples of hypnosis. So even though it feels mystical and woo-woo, it's really not, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you hypnotize someone now, do you have?
I love the fact that you keep on doing the
and you said woo-woo, which makes me happy. When you hypnotize someone, do you have, like, if someone comes to you and says, I'm so anxious. I got to conquer this anxiety. And then, or I am having nightmares. I don't know. Do you have particular modules that you follow? Like, this is an anxiety hypnosis. So you have those.
Yep. So I have, because going back to what I was saying about how hypnotizing someone is not hard, it's knowing what to do with someone while in hypnosis is going to be the challenging thing. And so what I really love about the organization that I work with, Cal Banian, who is the president of the type of hypnosis that I do, he was a practicing psychiatrist many years ago, like back in California, like over 30 years ago. Then he became a professional hypnotist. And so then he's been able to put together these processes and these flows for different people and their different goals and their different issues that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So if someone who is wanting to stop emotionally eating, I'm going to go this direction. For someone who wants to stop feeling anxious, I'm going to go this direction. For someone who wants to, let's say, become a better confident speaker, it's going to be this direction. So I have these different tools that I can use depending on what their goals are.
Is it just like, is it kind of like just guiding someone through a meditation to get them to that point? Or
I would say for many hypnotists, yes. Now, I'm not going to put down other hypnotists because we all have our place and it's all valid and everything like that. The type of hypnosis that I do is conversational hypnosis. So I'm actually having a dialogue with someone while they're in the hypnotic state. So I'm bringing them through different processes so then they can come up with their awareness. They can come up with the insight. And when we have the awareness and the insight, that's how we're going to be able to have long-lasting and permanent change. You know, which depends like with the shadow work part.
So is there a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So it helps with the ahas.
Yes.
It helps them find the ahas easier because it takes down some of those barriers that we inherently have.
And not Aha, the band that sings Take On Me.
Maybe not for you. In my head, those are all my barriers.
So
Valid.
are people vulnerable to, what do you call it?
Suggestive thought.
Suggestive thought when they are in hypnotic state. I mean, could you, if you wanted to, and I know you wouldn't because you're a good hypnotist and you just wouldn't do that, but is that when people like, because we just saw a thing, and I know this is old, that what we saw, and it's so, things have improved so much better, but the thing about the satanic panic and the girl that started it all, and this psychologist put her in a hypnotic state and then suggested things and led her down a path that had nothing to do with what was really going on in her family life. She was just very vulnerable state. Does that happen? Like, is that real? Is that?
I would say that's yes and no. So remember that hypnosis is a voluntary state of mind. Yeah. And so if you and I are doing hypnosis together, and then I give you the suggestion, you're going to give me your social security number, you're going to give me your credit card number, you're going to give me all these different things, you're going to emerge yourself and be like, excuse me, what the fuck did you just say? So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just did.
You could say fuck on our show.
So, you know, again, like when people are in the hypnotic state, that they are conscious, that they are aware. And if I ever gave a suggestion that someone doesn't, oh, hi, Adam. If I ever gave a suggestion that someone didn't like, they just wouldn't accept it. And if I gave a suggestion that someone really didn't like, again, they would emerge themselves.
Okay.
So, but then on the flip side of that, though, if someone has a belief system that hypnosis is mind control, that I have no power, that this is not the way, that I totally lose control, and then we have someone who is being very unethical, then maybe, you know.
That could be, I guess, with any kind of practice in working with someone's third eye or like you said, the theta and the beta, and you know,
you've heard of counselors who have implanted false memories to push their agenda, and so
to get them to keep coming back. It's like, oh, you were abused as a child, now they're going to keep coming back and getting money. And like I said, this isn't, I'm not insinuating that anyone does this in your field, but it is kind of a vulnerable point when you are trusting. Even if you are like on board, you still have to be like, for me, a lot of us witches, we are like, yeah, let's do it. Like, my mind is open. I am willing. I am about giving consent to this. I want to work on this, but it's still giving over a certain amount of power and control to someone. So I'm sure as a hypnotist and what you're training, you have those things where you are make sure that they are feeling comfortable, that they are feeling safe, that they are feeling like they are still in control, right?
So I think this really goes into kind of like buyer beware. Okay. So this is why, like, as a professional, I have things set up very specifically, such as doing a consultation at no cost. So I can get together, so I can share my process with them and everything like that. We're also certified by the National Guild of Hypnotists. And so this is a guild that holds us to an ethical standard. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to be certified through the state of Washington as well, too, which is going to be like another like level of being keeping us safe. Well, versus across the border, In Idaho, you don't have to have anything like that. You can literally, and so in Idaho, you can literally take like a $20 course offline and call yourself a hypnotist, and you can start seeing clients like that.
Oh, good Lord.
This is when, so this is kind of a point where a lot of the National Guild of Hypnotists, what they're talking about, how, as a profession, it is going to be really important that we are holding ourselves to ethical standards and holding others to also ethical standards as well too, to not only keep our future clients safe, but also to protect our profession.
Absolutely.
And we do the same thing as pagan leaders because of things that get said in the pagan community. And when people act out, they need to be held to account and spoken out against. So
there's also, we have a lot of, we're affiliated with the Aquarian Tabernacle Church, the ATC of Wicca, and they started the Seattle Psychics Association, but now it's just called the, because it's not just Seattle. I can't remember what Liliana said it was, but it's SPA, S-P-A, and it's the same concept. People who do psychic work, tarot readings, divination, guided things, it holds people to a certain ethics and accountability. And that is impressive when you can see that there is someone part of that. And you know that, okay, they take it very seriously. They do have ethics. You have to have ethics. Not everyone does, but that's awesome that there is an organization that you're part of that says, hey, we're going to hold our doctors, our hypnotists accountable. Yeah.
And so it really, like with any type of modality that you're doing, it comes down to buyer beware. It's up to the consumer to also trust their intuition, to trust their gut when they are going to a hypnotist, when they're going to a psychic, when they're going to a healer, even when they're going to go buy a car, even when they're going to go buy like a couch or go to a doctor or a therapist or anything like that. So, it's coming down to an education. So this is why I really love this question, because I think it is a question that maybe a lot of hypnotists shy away from, but it is a conversation that does need to happen, because there's people out there that think about these things and they're like, oh, like that's maybe one of the things that's preventing them from trying something out. And so it's just like knowing the right questions to ask your potential hypnotist, doing research on them, making sure that they are all like licensed with the state of Washington or whatever state that they're in, that they're with a guild or an organization that's going to hold them to an ethical standard. And, just asking questions about where did they get their certification from? Did they get it from some Cracker Jack barrel box or something like that?
Yeah.
Did they actually go to a legit school? Do they have to upkeep on their education? So that's the thing with the type of guild that I'm with, is I have, I think 35 hours a year that I have to do every year to keep up with my certification and everything. So this is ongoing education. So I'm not just done, but that's okay.
Yeah. You're always learning new things. It's like recertification. It's like there's new, there's
new techniques that come out. There's new ideas or methodologies that you can be absorbed in.
And that's important to know, because it's, times change, people change. We have to learn new ways to address different people's triggers and their what do they call it? Their isms.
And the modernizing of the world. What worked 20 years ago doesn't work now.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Forgetting that, just because you're educated X amount of years ago in this way, it doesn't mean that it's going to work with the modern patient. Client.
So, thank you for answering those questions, and thank you for saying that was a good question. I like to hear that. I'm pretty good at what I do.
You are very good at what you do.
Pat on the back for me.
A round of applause.
Thank you. Round of applause. I want to talk about past life regression. You do that as well, which is awesome, because we had someone on our show, Miklon, who does that as well. And
you sound like me. What's up?
I know. This is what happens with live television. God, how old am I? I'm 53, so I said television. Live streams. You're gonna catch all the slurring and you look at me and just let me,
of course,
dig a hole. Yeah, thank you. We had someone on the show recently who also does past life regressions. I have had, you know what? No, I have not had
I've
it.
never experienced it.
I haven't. I've had past. So it's past life regression, and then there's a past life like memories. Like, is that like figuring out who you were in a past life? Mm-hmm. Is that past life regression?
It can be. That's a yes and. That's okay. Yes and. So we can have past life memories without hypnosis. So we can have past life memories when we are in a meditative state, during our sleeping. We could be doing something and it just comes in. And so like there's like an awakening that happens, you know? And so I've personally have had many experiences where stuff like that happens to me, where I'm able to connect with past lives as a memory. And then when I get that insight, I can then go do some self-hypnosis and I can go journey to go uncover and go re-experience, go like, oh, like, what was this about? Like, why did this come to me now?
Yeah.
And so hypnosis is a past life regression. And there's also different ways of doing a past life regression besides just hypnosis. Just hypnosis is going to be one of the ways to get there. So basically what we do is that we get the individual into a super deep state of deep state of hypnosis. And then we have access to the super subconscious. So we have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, unconscious, and then below to like the deeper parts of the iceberg, if you will, is going to be the super subconscious.
Okay.
And then what we do is that then we basically bring people and we pop people into a past life. I like to have a little bit more direction when I'm doing past lives with people. So like, what is the intention? What are we trying to heal instead of allowing it just to be like random and spontaneous? I like to have a little bit more direction so we can actually get some insight and get some healing from it.
Yeah.
And then what I like to do is that when someone is in that past life regression, in that past life, I then bring them through different highlights and different moments throughout that life, usually focusing on the positive so I can learn more about them, like their age, like where are they from, things of that nature. And then we start moving into more of the harder parts of their life. And then we move into the healing. And then I do a whole cord cutting with my clients as well too. So then I do this whole thing. So then they can bring on the insight. They can take on the insight. So they're able to have the awareness of how they can now show up in this life differently without having to take on that energetic energy in this life anymore.
And so when you have, well, first of all, we'll come back to this real quick. A question popped in my head. What is the most popular thing or the most common thing you get asked to do with your hypnosis? Is it, what do you get a lot of?
Yeah. So again, most of my work is clinical work. I don't really advertise myself as a spiritual hypnotist, even though I am very witchy and very spiritual and things of that nature. That's just not how I always present myself because I work with people with all different walks of life and everything.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about clinical, mostly it's going to be anxiety. When we're talking about spiritual, I get people that ask me a lot about past life regressions. I also get people that ask me a lot about quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT, which was coined by...
No idea what is that?
So Dolores Cannon, she is a pioneer in the spiritual hypnosis world. She was a professional hypnotist back in the 60s, 70s, and even early 2000s before she passed away. And she was able to create this modality called quantum healing hypnosis technique, where you basically are not bound to this linear time of just this life where you can experience a past life, you can go into the future. And then she also has little segues off of that where you can connect with like your galactic family. You can, connect with your higher self and things of that nature. So something that I personally do though, it is.
Is that like Akashic Records kind of stuff too? Or do you know anything about that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I would say it's kind of akin to that.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I personally do, so when people come to me for like a past life regression, I enjoy doing them. But the one thing that I'm very excited to do with my people is what I call life between lives.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. Yes. So
So-
that's our little segue.
Thank you.
What is life between lives?
So life between lives is very similar to the quantum healing hypnosis technique that I was just talking about. So what I do is I bring people into a deep state of hypnosis, and then I move them into the space in between before they reincarnated into this life.
Ooh.
So I move them into their soul, and we go have a conversation with their soul, with their higher self. Why are you here? What are you choosing in this life? Can we get the karmic relationship between mom and dad? How about your siblings? Do you have any gifts and talents that you're not using that are maybe underused? Then something that I do like to ask is that how many past lives, how many times have they reincarnated on Earth? And then I like to ask how many times have they reincarnated to a different planet or dimension or timeline?
Has that happened?
Yes. Oh yeah. I have had people go past life regression on a water planet. I'm serious. B, I believe.
That's
I've had
amazing.
one of my clients go to Atlantis.
Ooh.
I've had, yeah.
Ooh. We
Um,
get excited about this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we love talking to people like you, because we
learn things.
learn so much. I'm like, ooh.
It's just sponging up the information.
Yeah, we sponge it up.
yeah, I love that. We're all sponges, right? Just soaking up all the good stuff.
Yeah, we are.
In the world of Elaine, you're sponge worthy.
I'm sponge worthy. Have you watched Seinfeld?
No.
Okay,
No.
anyone that's watched Seinfeld out there watching this, she's very sponge worthy. And look it up, Cyndal, and you're gonna laugh.
You'll appreciate it. We know you well enough to know you'll appreciate it.
Cool. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So like what other planet, what other realm, right? That they were. Yeah.
so like fairy realm, I've had someone go to a fairy realm. I've had people again go to like a desert planet. So that does happen. But what I like to do though is when I ask that question, how many times have they reincarnated on Earth? And then they say like 10. Then sometimes I'll ask, is there so Danielle sessions can definitely be done online or in person. So when someone, sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Okay. So when I ask that question, does someone how many times have they reincarnated on Earth? They say like 10 times. Then I'll ask a question such as, does this individual actually need to address any of their past lives?
Okay.
And so then we're getting that directly from their higher self. We're getting directly from spirit. And I'll say 8 times out of 10, they say no.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we're in this life for a reason.
Yeah.
And we don't remember our past lives for a reason. So sometimes doing past life work, in my personal humble opinion, can be a distraction where they think all of their problems come from a past life and then they're ignoring this life.
I want to ask you about that because I believe in so many different things, but I'm also someone that's like about taking accountability for myself in this life.
Yep.
Do you find that there are people that kind of fall on that and say, well, in my past life, I was abused, or I was this, or I was that, so I can't help the way I am now? Do you run into that?
Yep.
That's shadow work they got to do, right?
Yep.
And how much of it is excuses versus reality?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so what I usually try to encourage people to do is like, let's focus on this life first. So let's clear away a lot of the emotional baggage from this life. Like, let's clear away the emotional pressure that's causing the issues. And then after that, then we can do a life between lives to get more insight, to get more clarity, to see about like this next step in your life to help with integration. And then if we do need to do a past life regression, we can at least get that insight there. Most of the time, by the time that we get to that far in the process, people don't need to do a past life regression, even though I enjoy doing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like by the time they've already have received the benefits, they are already feeling better. They got the insight. We got everything that we needed also during the life between lives session, that by the time there's like, no, I guess I don't really need it. You know, it was really interesting.
Is that what, so I think it was at the pagan campout that we met at. Yeah. Where Candy, RIP Candy, she passed away. She was such a lovely woman and we just loved her. But she was telling me that I've had, so is that what, like,
How many
you've had
lives? Yeah.
how many,
Yeah.
10 lives, whatever. Is that what like old soul, new soul is?
So can you, one more time?
So Candy had walked around and was talking with people in a circle and
Yeah.
was telling them how many times that they have cycled back on Earth.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and so she was saying, oh, you're a new soul. You've only cycled back X amount of times compared
To
oh, you're an
this
old
person,
soul.
old soul. Yeah.
You've been here 12 times or whatever.
Is that, in your experience, is that, not that I'm discounting what Candy did, but I've always, when people say, oh, she's an old soul, or oh, that's a new soul, do you understand that concept? Because I want to understand that.
Yeah, I do. And, you know, I think that from my own personal experience, I think that there is a little bit of misunderstanding, and I'll see if I can word this correctly, because, you know, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And so our souls are as old as since forever, you know. But how I understand it and the information I've been able to collect during my LBL, life between life sessions, is that sometimes the newer souls choose to not reincarnate as often. They choose to kind of hang out in this space in between. And then like, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go back down to earth for, you know, round 3. You know, even though they have an old soul, they just don't have as much human lived experience.
So like for Wiccans, we're Wiccan, we talk about Summerland. And Summerland is where your soul rests and rejuvenates. And then whenever your soul's like ready, it can go back and reincarnate. But there are some souls that are like, I kind of want to hang out here a little longer and enjoy seeing my loved ones and doing these things. So it's not about how old your soul is. It's about your soul that's already an old soul or it's been around long enough. It's the frequency of it going and reincarnating. Is that am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, if we can look at like Earth as like a school, right? Yeah. And so like you come to Earth like, you know, 4 or 5 times, like you're gonna get ready for like middle grade or like middle grade or whatever, middle school. And then like maybe like you kind of like take like your summer vacation, or you take like a year off, even though it doesn't really happen, you know, and then you just take this time off and then you just like go right back into it. And so that doesn't necessarily change the age of the individual, but the experiences that they get from it.
That makes more sense. Okay, that because I'm like, how can you really tell? Because we don't know. We can't remember all our past lives. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that would be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
it comes down to how many you have. If you've only had 2 or 3 past lives,
maybe you can. Yeah.
Compared to someone who's had 8, 10, 12, 15.
Yeah.
Well, and to also springboard off of that, Earth is just one of the realities that we can reincarnate to. You know, there's different planets and there's different timelines. I mean, then there's also different mindsets, so we can get like super heady with this and everything. But okay, I'm just gonna, I guess, go there with myself. So like for me, I went down kind of a path. I had a Reiki session where I had an experience where there was some entity, some being at the base of my feet, and they were doing some kind of healing upgrading on me. And then after my Reiki session, my Reiki practitioner, she was like, so what kind of experience did you have? And so I
Yeah.
told her, like, well, I kind of felt like there was like some paternal over here and then some beings. She was like, yeah, you had 2 very tall blue aliens at the base of your feet. And I've never had that happen before. So I was like, oh, well, very similar. I had a very similar experience, but I didn't know there were aliens. So anyways, I went on a journey, took me some time to get there, but I was able to connect with the Arcturians. And the Arcturians have told me that I have reincarnated on their planet system thousands of times.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I don't really have much memory of that. So does that count for my Earth experience?
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right?
No, that makes sense because in my training that I've had at the Wiccan Seminary, we would work with meditating and going into our chakras. And I can't remember if it was my communication chakra or my third eye. It might have been my third eye. That I think it was it was my communication, that I instantly during the meditation, I saw, because you go to different levels of your chakras, and I went to the level of, like I said, I think it was communication. And I was in a room full of aliens that their technology was so advanced. And I'm watching this going, oh my God, like it was so weird because I never expected that. But that's where I went first. So, and also, I love alien stuff. Like, I love it. Like, so yeah.
So is that kind of the theory of what happens when someone gets a traumatic brain injury, and when they come to, they speak another language that they've never known, that they're tapping into a past life?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, and like that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've also have had experiences though when I'm doing a past life for someone and then they start speaking like Russian and German or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't even know Russian or German in their like regular life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, is that they're accessing something in their code and their background. They're tapping into something that is not with this current cycle.
Yeah. I think that stuff is so amazing. So yeah, right when you said the alien stuff, I'm like, oh, because it was so strange, because in the class we talked about where we went, and everyone's going to these, very witchy, ethereal places, and I'm like, there were aliens, like they were full on aliens, and everything they could manifest was already in front of them, like when you see those spy movies and they have the high technology and they just like Iron Man, Tony Stark, where it's right there in front of me, he's like, pull this up, and then Jarvis, pull this up, and then it's like he moves stuff over, it's right there. That's what they were doing, but it was even more like they could actually grab a digital representation of food and they could just grab it and eat it, and just like it was. And I felt like I wasn't, like, not that I wasn't supposed to be there, but like I was like, can I come in? Like I was, and they almost didn't even notice me. I just was like, okay, I'm going to walk in and observe. And they had no problem with me there. I almost felt like they were like, get to work. Why are you standing there? Get to work. So yeah, I love that. Yeah. That's amazing. I didn't even think of past lives on different planets. That never even crossed my mind.
Because we are part of the universe, so who's to say that we're all tethered to this one location?
Yeah, exactly.
And oftentimes we're not, and we often just think that, like we don't really always realize just how interdimensional our soul and our consciousness can really be.
Yeah.
We're so limited to just this box. And then as we start to grow and expand, the box begins to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But really, like, this is like thinking about even outside of the box.
Oh, well, isn't that what we do as pagans and witchy people? We always are trying to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
And there's always, I like how you said buyer beware, because I always say that even with as Wiccans, when we do our circle, you know, and we cast the circle and we call in the guardians, and I call them the bodyguards, and, you know, make sure that our circle is as protected as can be. But it's not 100% guarantee, because if you're playing with things out there, you're taking a chance.
Metaphysics or metaphysics.
Yeah, you're taking a chance. And so if you want to think outside the box, and that's why I think people are afraid to, because they don't know what's outside of that box. And what you're doing in your practice is you're taking your clients outside of that box, because that's where the answers are, because we all create our own little reality in our box, which is great. And for those people who are afraid to go outside of the box, I'm not saying, you know,
it's not right or wrong. It just is.
It just is. It's comfort level.
Yep.
You know, and there's a lot of people I know that aren't comfortable with going outside of the box. But once you decide to step outside of that, you are exposing yourself to things that might scare you. You might get something attached to you. Has that ever happened when you take people on past life regressions, or are you aware of like attachments and things that they might bring back when they're awake?
So that's a good question. So first, before I go into that, though,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to know that as sovereign beings, and just how powerful and strong that we are, that, you know, if we are ever faced with a dark force entity or anything like that, that we are strong enough not to take that energy on. We are strong enough not to. We just need to fully feel it and know it and believe that it is true, you know.
Okay,
and so I think it's really important that we can empower ourselves to be able to protect ourselves.
Well, and that's what I believe, because like I have, and I'm not, you know, I'm not poo-pooing on any of the witches I've met that say, oh, there's something attached to you. First of all, no one's ever told me that, because it's not that I don't believe in attachments. It's just that I work so hard on creating and manifesting a positive light in my life, and I also honor attachments. And if I honor those things, because a lot of people think Wiccans are all love and light and fluffy. No, we know that there's shit out there. Like, we know, and we're very aware of that. And I just honor it. Like, if it's something that's like, oh, that's a little dark, I don't try to will it to do what I want. I don't try to like, you know, I'm just like, oh, this is something from a shadow that's coming to my life. And I just honor it, you know, because these all light and dark, it's not good and evil. It's just light and dark. And we just need to know how to deal with that energy. So attachments don't sit with me. And when I've had someone say you've got something attached to you, and I know none of them are watching this show, but that's when I go, I don't think you're the real deal, because I know I don't have attachments.
Yeah.
And my only attachments is what I have created.
Yep.
Like, I've created my own attachments. I've created my own demons and monsters.
Yep.
I understand that, and I work on that.
Yep.
I was going to ask the theory of generational curses or things that are passed down through our different reincarnations. It makes me think of Lasher from the Mayfair Witches, or the Witching Hour from the Anne Rice series.
Oh yeah, Lasher.
Because it is an entity that is attached to the spirit of a family of witches.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a generational curse.
Yes.
I didn't even think of Lasher like that.
Yeah, but it attaches on, and it goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and it keeps coming forward because of the agreement has not been fulfilled of whatever the honorment was. And so it kind of makes me think of, in that sense, when they keep up bringing it forward, you haven't fulfilled whatever that turn is that needs to be turned before you can move on.
I feel that that's also just, I just think that when we say attachments, I think it's all self-created. I think Lasher in the Anne Rice books, I love how we just went to Anne Rice books right now. I think Lasher in the Anne Rice books is symbolic of something that the family is not curing for themselves. They're not getting rid of for themselves. So it's either alcoholism, domestic violence, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so like we have drug addiction and alcoholism in both our families. That could be our lasher or our attachment from generations before. I'm just having aha moments. But go ahead. You're our guest.
So
I need to stop
you're
talking.
taking on me now?
Stop. Anyway.
So I mean, there's 3 or 4 different things I want to say. So like real quick about the generational trauma, that generational trauma is a thing with epigenetics. So this is something that we have been able to discover and uncover, that epigenetics, that trauma does get passed down. And so then there is a part of that that is genetic, but then with the awareness, then we can start making different choices, such as like, if I know that alcoholism runs in my family, I can then empower myself to make different choices, and I don't have to be doomed to the same outcome.
Okay.
Now, so epigenetics, there's a really good book by Mark Wolfman, something like that, that it didn't start with you, that actually talks about epigenetics and everything. And so it's a really, really good book. Highly 10 out of 10, highly suggest it.
Okay.
Now, I do think that there's also different types of attachments. So there are the attachments that we do create ourselves, and that can come in the manifest in a way of addiction. That's going to manifest in a way of trauma and intrusive thoughts and getting into like unhealthy relationships and so on and so forth. So, but then I do believe that there are other entities that can attach to us. And I'm going to come back to a story here in a second.
Okay.
To answer your original question, though, that when I'm doing a past life regression with someone, this is a reason why I always do a cord cutting. When she's actually a local witch as well too. She's out in Coeur d'Alene. She's a therapist and everything. So I'm not going to drop her name.
Yeah.
But she was sharing with me years ago, before I became a professional hypnotist, about how she did a group past life regression. And then she was basically chained up in a cage, and she was like ill in her past life regression. And then when she emerged from her session, that she was still very ill. And then she was sick for like 2 weeks. And so that kind of got stuck. And so then this was my idea of being able to do a cord cutting, being able to drain everything out of the soles of the feet, any negative energy, anything that's uncomfortable or anything like that, draining everything out of the soles of the feet, doing a cord cutting. So then we're not carrying that energy back with us into this next life, into this current life, but then we can still get the insights and the awareness that we need to be successful. Right.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Now, about the attachments, though. So this is interesting. This has only happened 3 times in my hypnosis practice. And I have worked with probably over 1,000 clients at this point in my career. So I was working with this hypnosis client, and out of nowhere, she started to drink. She just became an alcoholic, literally out of nowhere.
Wow.
And she was someone who was, really like, she would exercise, drink lots of water, like very kind of like granola mom type of deal.
Yeah.
And so she had to, she traveled somewhere either for a funeral or a birth or something like that. And so then when she was coming back home, she stopped at this gas station, and then out of nowhere, she had like this urge to go to a bar and drink. And so she kind of like, she fought it off, she talked it off, and then she came home, and then she started to drink like whiskey, like hardcore whiskey. So not like little, like, I don't know.
Not like a little spritzer, wine spritzer, or
Exactly. So then like she dealt with that for like 3 months, and she then came to me and she was like, I don't know why all of a sudden that I'm drinking. And so like in my clinical brain, I was like, oh, well, you probably lost someone. And so that's probably causing the feel bad, distract cycle, so on and so forth. So then anyways, we start doing hypnosis together. And then at one point, I'm trying to find the root cause of this. And her voice changes. Her voice goes dark. It goes deep. And I was like, client, what's going on? And that's not who you're talking to. And so I was just going to call him Billy Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking to Billy Bob. I was like, okay, Billy Bob, what are you doing here? And he was like, I don't know. I was just kind of walking around and I saw her and her energy felt like my mom or like a family member or something like
Yeah.
that. And so I just went up to her and it got attached to her.
Oh, wow.
And probably because she was also in a vulnerable state from like
Yeah.
driving a long time and then, you know, with the funeral and everything like that. And so then this entity attached onto her, and this entity we found out actually got in a drinking driving accident. And that's how he died, was right there in that area.
Okay.
So this was like a spirit that attached onto her, which now caused her drinking.
Ooh.
And so then we were able to get this insight, you know, that Billy Bob wasn't trying to hurt her. Billy Bob wasn't trying to, you know, cause any harm. You know, and then I basically was talking to Billy Bob. I was like, hey, do you have other people that have passed on that you miss? He's like, yes. I'm like, well, you know, you can go to them now. Like, it's safe for you to go to them now. And so then, like, basically, I kind of like did it like an exorcism.
Yeah.
And kicked them out. And he was able to go to the light and he was able to like pass on. So that's one thing that happened. Another time is that one of my other clients, we were working on motivation issues, and she got sexually harassed. She got raped when she was 15. And a dark force attached onto her. The dark force was not as willing to let go as easy as the other one. And so that one was a little bit harder. So I had to call on the Archangel Michael, I believe, to be able to come by and to basically exercise
Get
him
rid
out.
of that. Yeah.
So
that's impressive. But that happens. I believe that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
And it's crazy too. Like when you're in a hypnosis session, you're thinking that like it's going to be one thing, and then like, oh, completely caught off guard. And so in those moments, this is again why I was saying hypnotizing someone is not hard. It's knowing what to do with someone when they're in a hypnotic state.
Well, Daniel's asking, when you do your sessions, do you find you have to do mutual sessions to?
He means many sessions.
Oh, when you do? I'm not sure. Do you get it?
Yeah. Does it take right away, or does it take multiple sessions for the hypnosis to set in?
That's a really good question, because that's also going to depend on the individual and goal. So if someone who is wanting to like lose weight, for an example, that's going to take multiple sessions, you know, because for one, like weight loss is a very dynamic experience, and there's just a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So typically I work with those clients up to 6 months, not on a weekly basis, but up to 6 months. For someone who is wanting to overcome anxiety, for an example, typically I work with people for about 6 to 8 weeks on a weekly basis. Okay. So hypnosis is known as a fast track therapy. And one of my biggest goals too for people is not to have them dependent on me for the rest of their life. I don't think
you don't want that.
I want to give people all the tools necessary so by the time they graduate, they have their self-hypnosis, they have emotional wisdom, that we've done all of this work together to clear away all of this emotional pressure. When I am doing my spiritual sessions with my people, those are typically 3 sessions. So my first session that I do is always practice, because humans, we do better with practice.
Yeah.
So first session is always going to be practice. Second session is when we will do the life between lives. And then third session, we either do a past life regression, depending on the information we got from the LBL, or we do a quantum healing session. We can do an ancestral healing session. And so I have a bunch of different things that just depending on what the person needs.
Okay.
So I customize everything for my people, because it's not fair to take a cookie cutter approach.
Everyone's unique.
Yeah.
You gotta treat them as unique.
Is this something? Is that we know Daniel. He's amazing. Is this something that you? I mean, maybe it's none of my business, but you seem so educated and wonderful in this. Is this something that you make your living off of, or do you have to have a secondary income coming in?
I'm full time. I went full time
Ooh.
in less than a year.
Okay.
So I've been doing this for almost 6 years now. There'll be 6 years in March.
Wow!
And,
Congratulations! That's amazing. That I asked that because not that says how good someone is, but that shows that you've put in the work. You have a good clientele and good word of mouth and reference, and yeah.
There's a purpose in what you do, and there's value in it because people send others to you.
Absolutely.
And people can go to your Blooming Lotus Hypnosis.com website. Can they make appointments there with you?
Yeah, so they can go to bloominglotushypnosis.com and they can go to the schedule now where I have an option for Zoom, phone, or in-person consultations. So in-person is always nice because then you can come down to the office and see where the magic happens, which is really nice. But Zoom also works too, so that's no problem. For anyone who's curious, you can also go to Google and search up Blooming Lotus Hypnosis, and I have like 81 5-star reviews that you can go through and read too. So, I really appreciate clients that have taken time out of their day to write the reviews about their experiences and everything.
That's awesome. And then you also have a YouTube.
I do.
Called Cyndal Wallace Discovering Your Purpose YouTube. We could put the link here unless someone wants to screenshot it and copy it in, but it's probably better to just go to Cyndal Wallace Discovering Your Purpose YouTube.
It's a baby channel, so it's super small, but I am now in the process of uploading weekly videos starting on February 6th, I believe.
Awesome.
Well, you got to start somewhere. I mean,
yeah,
that's what we did, and here we are 130 plus episodes later.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of followers. We have like what, 300,
500 plus.
We have 500. No, we do not. Do we? I don't know. I don't pay attention to that until someone says, "Oh, you've got how many followers?" I'm like, I don't know.
It's all about the value that you're adding.
I don't do this for followers. I do it because I love talking to people and love learning new things and giving people a platform to spread the word.
And we've learned so much cool shit. And you just add to that pile. The hypnosis is something very unique.
It is.
And something that we appreciate. So
thank you so much. Yeah, we're at our hour. I always try to keep it within an hour. Sometimes we go over. We have so many other things to talk to you about. Would you be willing to come back to our show and talk about your sound healing and crystals and all the things? You said what crystal do you have with you right now? What is that?
My golden heart pyrite.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
I had this one, which is like a hawk's eye one, but I was like, I'm not really feeling that one. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
That's gorgeous. We love the crystals. We just love them. So if anyone wants to help out our nonprofit, Children of the Crossroads is a nonprofit. We put on these shows. We would love to be able to. I just saw StreamYard has a week free of. I know I got a hair. I got wild hair. A week free of upgrading where we can put it out on more platforms. I kind of want to try it and see, but we're like a Wiccan church. We don't have a lot of money. If you want to donate to us, we don't require it. I'm not saying this to you, Cyndal. I'm saying it to our viewers.
But we're not saying it.
But we're not saying it. So we have a PayPal, and it's really easy. PayPal.me/COTCATC. And then our Venmo, same thing. Venmo.com/COTCATC. Also, we have a Discord channel, which the link is in the description of this episode. I will put it just in case people are savvy and like screenshot because I've heard people do that and then they can just figure it out. I'm like,
it's called pause.
They pause it. Thank you, honey. On the YouTubes. And the TikToks, the Tiki-Talkies.
On the Tiki-Talkies.
The Tiki-Talkies. Yeah, I'm old. But we have a Discord channel that is very active. We do things daily. We were having workshops. We're now like I'm the one that schedules all the things. So we have workshops that we're doing. We have tea time, social events, all online for people who can't make things in person. We provide for people that are all over.
We also do
dream workshops,
full moon rituals.
So if you want to check out our Discord channel, go to the description and click on it, and we are very welcoming. And also, if you where's our email address? We need a producer. If anyone wants to be a producer and do all the banners and stuff, I would love that. But if you also are interested in being in our show, if you've got a topic you want to hear about, if you've got a wine that you're interested in, you can actually, let me say thank you to her. Thank you so much, Cyndal, before I do this. This was amazing. I learned so much. You are an amazing woman. I love you. And we have cats doing stuff. So if you're interested in what we do, if you're like, hey, why are they the way they are? You can email us at
crossroadscoven@gmail.com.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That's crossroadscoven@gmail.com.
So everyone, especially in this day and age, be kind to each other. Make sure we support each other. Create community. And always walk with the goddess. And until next time, blessed be.
Bye.
Have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm waving.